Welcome back. In this video, we're going to be talking about touch screens, and they're so abundant today. Chromebooks have touch screens. Your smartphone is a touch screen. Your Windows tablets are touch screens. So how can we use these to make your classroom experience more interactive? Let's get into it. Now, of course, touchscreens come in many different flavors, right? Your school may be providing you with one already. I would venture to guess that you have a smartphone that is touch capable. Windows tablets, which we're going to show today, are very good for touch interactivity. But Chromebooks, which I love Chromebooks, many of them now come with touch capabilities. And then your smartphone, your iPad, all of these have the ability to be used for digital annotations that will really make your presentations come alive. So I will do my best to really use the annotation tools in this presentation to give you some examples. Now, we're going to enable collaboration by supporting active learning. And something that you should think about is that students can use annotation tools in their online learning environments. So we can enable them to collaborate. There's co-annotation tools in Zoom and other software solutions where students can use whiteboards and tools to do active learning and what I would consider active collaboration. Now we can analyze text and images. So what I want to do really quickly is I want to show you guys a quick little ABC book that I'm going to annotate on top of. And the reason why this is important is because I want to show you guys that you can pretty much use anything to do this. So this is an ABC book. In this course, you will learn how to do this little split screen thing where you can have yourself in half the screen and something next to you in the other screen. We'll go over tracing a letter just for the heck of it today. So here is R. Now, this is really helpful to be able to, show worksheets and different things and show people how it works. Now, you can't necessarily have the students, right, draw on this under your document camera, but they can use annotation tools. And many of your students have smartphones. And again, access to touchscreen technology is much more, apparent and available than it ever has been. Now, not everyone has access to a smartphone or a touchscreen, but if they do, you should encourage using it. So again, another way to look at this is to use either a mix of real world, a pencil, paper, pen, and digital ink, right? It just makes it more fun. Now you can also do things like using arrows, right? So we can point to different things. That's great for like a map. In fact, here is a horse. Let's use this horse as an example. And what I'm going to do is use little arrows here. Here's my horse. And this is just an example here, because if you have maybe a detailed map or something like this, here is the horse's head, right? This is the horse's tail. We have the horse's feet. I'm just giving you guys examples of ways to use annotation tools, arrows, shapes, all kinds of different tools that you can use that are a little bit more engaging. Students can really engage, maybe, as maybe change the colors of the arrows to represent different things. Colors, digital annotation, ink, things like this will make your videos much more interactive. So let's talk a little bit more about things you can do with virtual ink and digital ink and annotation. So you can analyze text, you can go over images, you can work through experiments, you can have a live experiment happening, and you can actually annotate on top of the experiment. Here's a great example. I wanted to jump in and show a couple here. Let's show an example of the United States. So what I'm doing right now is I am screen sharing. So I can go into the United States. Let's say we're looking at the entire United States. This is Google Maps. So that's all this is here. It's just in a Google Chrome browser. And we can start highlighting and annotating. Now let me show you guys the annotation tools here that I'm using. These are from Zoom. There are a lot of different types of annotation tools that are available for use. but I want to make sure you guys see these ones. These are very popular annotation tools that teachers can use. You can have a mouse, text. We can draw in a lot of different shapes and sizes. So this would be like a pen. We can draw with a highlighter, so we can highlight different states perhaps that are in a certain area that we're talking about. And then we have different shapes that we could do. I'm just going to show a couple of these and then do some examples. These are the arrows that we can draw to different states. And then this would be right here. This would be like a two-way arrow. That's good for showing maybe different areas. Let's clear this as we continue our diagram. Let's say we wanted to highlight a square around specific states. We can do that. This one here is more of a see-through square. So that's a good one for, covering different maybe spots of a state, different counties, different areas. Again, just an example on top of a state here. So these three squares, when you see these three squares and these three circles, the top one is a outline. The second one is a transparent circle, and the third is a full filled in one there. So let's clear those and continue through. These stamps are great. These stamps basically stamp on little arrows, little check marks. Now these are great, and I'm going to show you guys in a moment an example of grading a paper with these. So we've got our X's here, we have our stars, we've got our hearts, and then we've got our question marks. Now, I'm sure that you're already thinking about this. Now, the next one here is these arrows here. What these do is these come and go. So what we're doing is we're spotlighting a specific space, and then we're moving it. So these are really good for live demonstrations where you don't want to have to clear everything every time. And then again, you have your eraser, your colors that you can choose from, your fonts and your sizes, and then your undo and redo. So just wanted to show all of that. Remember that you can save everything that you've worked on before you erase it. So that's so important, because that's one of the great values of digital ink, is that you don't have to erase your whiteboard. So if we're working and we're co-annotating and collaborating with students on some states in the Midwest, just do that really quickly. Going over those state lines. Let's say we just wanted to go over these, for example. Again, very engaging, going over all of that. We hit that save button there, and now it's been saved in this screen. See, you can see right here, go to my mouse. These are the two screenshots that have been saved. So you can just go through and save all of your annotations without having to erase them. Now let's take a look at grading a paper, something that so many teachers have to do. We'll go into 150 Zoom level here, maybe 200 as we're doing this. Now you can see I'm sharing my screen in Zoom. So this would be, a live way to share your screen with students. So they're seeing everything you're doing. You may want to use your highlighter to highlight certain spots. The stamp is a great way to say, look, this part I like. So there's a check mark there. This is good. But over here, you're continuing to use italics when you're not supposed to, right? So these little stamps are really good. And you could say, I love this part here. You could put a couple different hearts there. And then you can say, but I didn't understand this part here. What are you talking about here? Go ahead and save it and send it to your students. So that's a great way. This is, again, live. This is doing everything live. Google itself, as you probably know, has its own highlighting and scribble tools as well for annotations. So depends on how you want to do this, because if you go back to our mouse tool here, we can definitely add comments, and that is probably a better way of using Google Drive. But if you're live doing it, kind of like, let's say you wanted to comment needs work here, that's a nice way to mark up, and you guys probably know how to do that, to mark up and show, actually explain different parts of a document, and comment and let students know exactly what you're thinking about in each space. But Still, when you're doing online tools, these annotation tools are really great to have and to save. Now, I want to go a little further, and now I want to talk about some Google Draw opportunities here. I want to do a couple more examples. So this is an example of a mathematics, really a geometry area where we're measuring angles with a protractor. So what you can do, and Google Draw is great. And so I have an example of Google Draw I want to start with, and then I'm going to give you 2 examples of how to use them in your classroom. But the first one is I just want to show Google Draw. So Google Draw, you can start by naming your document, and we'll just call this example 1. And essentially, you have all the kind of familiar interface that you're probably used to with Google Docs and Google Slides and Google Sheets. One thing that's really helpful for teachers to know about is this search the web for images. So I'm just going to go for George Washington, and literally you can take a picture and insert it directly into your document. So basically, you can very quickly and easily get a bunch of different pictures, and then create yourself some great, exercises and worksheets that can be done with a touchscreen. So we'll do Andrew Hamilton as another. Okay. Insert. And so you can start to build out your own interactive worksheets and exercises. And what I like to do, and I've seen a lot of teachers do this, is to create almost bins where students can drag and drop the correct answer. So I'll show you how to do this. So we'll basically say, drag and drop the first president here, just as an example. And then what you can do is you can make copies of these and send them to each one of your students. So the student would take a touchscreen and drag this here. Now we would want to make sure that these are on the top. Order, bring to front, so that when they're dragged over, they're on the top. And so you can kind of make these quick and easy worksheets for your students. Now here's one that I already made and I want to show here, is that you have a protractor. And you can have the students actually use this protractor on an angle. So let's go ahead and have them do that. Now, what we might want to do, by the way, is kind of make everything grouped. Once you have everything saved the way you want it, make that one big group. And then we'll pull this protractor right on top. We got to do that order, bring to front again. There we go. Okay. So we can put that right at the angle, and we can find out that that's a 60-degree angle. So we can have our students just fill that in. And again, we would want them to likely use a drawing tool to draw 60. Okay. I'll bring these tools over so you can see them. And then we'll do that again over here. Where are we? There we go. So this angle would be 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. And this one really, I was wrong there, wasn't I? Look at me. That's 140. So let's erase that. So 140 and 60. So this is just another example. So you'd want your students to kind of fill that in with a touchscreen. Here's one more. Use the tool to draw a 52-degree angle. So we would go something like this, where we have an angle of 52. Boop. Okay, so just some examples there of how students can start using touchscreens to draw angles and do things like that. Now I got one more that's better in K through 12, but this one here is to drag and drop. So what happens in the summer? Okay, we have flip-flops. In the fall, we're going back to school. In the springtime, we have flowers. And it looks like I actually need to add one for winter time. So let's do that just as an example. Search for winter, PNG. PNG would be a transparent file. And let's put some snowy trees. It's that easy. And then they can just drag and drop that in. Okay, just wanted to show you guys those examples before we get back to the rest of this presentation. Organizations continue to push the boundaries of collaboration. There's a little bit of sense of digital saturation that can clutter our lives and reduce a little bit of productivity. So online collaboration will help your team and your students do better. So you can engage with learning as a game. You can whiteboard, you can play tic-tac-toe, and it really makes it more engaging for the students. Now, there's additional collaboration software that you should be aware of. So right now, what you're seeing essentially is, these are Google Slides. And I know that many teachers are, use Google Slides, but I also want to mention that there's a lot of great tools with Google, including a new one called Google Drawings. And again, this is very popular with touchscreens, right? So if you have a smartboard, you can use this. If you have a tablet, you can use this with touchscreen. Of course, you can use a keyboard and mouse. But again, the ability to use these in more of an interactive opportunity to build things and do things with your students, I think is really important. So there's a lot of different software out there, including one of my personal favorites, Zoom video conferencing, which supports co-annotation, meaning not just you can annotate, but the students can also annotate as well. Now, let me jump in there with a quick tutorial for that. When we go to screen share inside of Zoom, I just want to make sure everyone sees this. There's a whiteboard feature there. So when we whiteboard, we've got this giant whiteboard that we can use to collaborate on, right? So we have whiteboard here. That is an option for sharing. Now, when you have your participants in your stream, you can allow them to co-annotate, and they actually are able to whiteboard for you. And all of those tools, or whiteboard with you, or collaborate on shared screens. So I just wanted to make sure everyone knows how that works, and everyone kind of has an idea of how to do the whiteboarding feature on Zoom. It's great for demonstrations, and obviously we can highlight key points in our PowerPoint presentation and make it really come alive. So even if you're just doing a picture-in-picture with a presentation, adding the annotation really makes it more engaging. And there's some really great experiments that you can do. And this is one that I'll share really quickly. This is such a good one that I think is worth sharing really quickly. This one is really popular. Everyone really in the education space probably already knows about this. It's called the digital frog. And it's really modernizing the difference between, actually cutting frogs open in a biology class and looking at them, and using a actual, online experiment for this. So if you have a touch screen, it really feels like you're opening it up, and it's just such a great tool. So there's so many different applications for this. I just wanted to make sure that we shared a few of them. Another great one is delivering feedback. So, students can share their screens as well. And sharing feedback is a really great way to engage online learners. So if they share your screen and you're able to highlight words that maybe are misspelled, or use your annotation tools to help them in some way. So, you can kind of cross out words, for example. It makes it a little bit more interactive, and you can do more. So you can improve learning outcomes. These interactive touchscreens can bring the fun back into online learning. You can boost student engagement, and you will improve their attention spans. That is what I have for you guys. You probably... One last thing here is I want to cover the module takeaways. So the takeaways are the different types of touchscreens and annotations that you can use to make your teaching more interactive. And you've learned the use cases for different types of annotations that will help increase student engagement, and tips for using touchscreens more effectively. Have a touchscreen in your pocket or on your desk right now, which is your smartphone. So let's think about ways to use these more effectively. In our next video, we will be going over how to use an iPhone and iPad in the classroom. So if you're an iOS user, that will help you quite a bit. Also, we've got Android phones here as well. We'll talk about good apps for both in an upcoming video.